Hello and welcome to the Surly Sock Gamer Club. This is Jason, aka GreywolfZX's, and today is day 8 of my Xbox modding project. Today we're going to try and finish up my second attempt at doing a USB hack or mod to the Xbox so that I can hook up a standard USB flash drive and use that in place of an Xbox memory cartridge. Then, once this is complete, we'll be able to move on to day 9 and start with the soft mod process. I should warn you, day 9 is probably going to be a research day where I'm learning about soft mods and what it takes to get one going. But anyway, let's continue with today. So, one thing I wanted to do on day 8, which I forgot to do, was to show the components where I got the components. I purchased them from SparkFun, and these are the different components I got. These are the USB header cables, 4 pins, 6 foot. Geez, I didn't even realize they were that long. Guess I need to pay more attention. Then these are the male shrouded end that you can see on the macro camera. It's got the close-up right there, and you can see the cable right here. Oh yeah, I guess I could use my finger to point. I had that over here for a reason. Knocked it over. Good job. Okay. Yeah, that was not an improvement, but that works. Okay, and then we've got the female end. It's not a great shot of it. It doesn't matter. None of these are great shots of it. Yeah. And you can usually see, I did order some of this. I think I ordered the 6 foot. 15 foot. I'm sorry. I don't remember ordering 15 foot, but I did order some of that, but we didn't use it, so I'm not really going to go into it. Okay. So yeah, that's where I got the parts that I've been using over the last 2 days of the project. Let's continue on. All right. So what we're going to do today is wire up the cable side of this connector, with this little guy. And so that means we're going to start with this guy here. And you can probably see the little triangle there that represents pin 1. And let's see if I can do this without creating too much chaos. On the Xbox here, the connector we put in, I don't remember if anyone remembers from yesterday. I can see it, but it doesn't really show very well. Let's see if this cam can... not enough light, so it's not getting a good image. But pin 1 on this connector, you can kind of see it there. If I cover it with my thumb, you can't. Is where the red cables are. That's where pin 1 starts. So that means that after looking at the wiring diagram that we found on the internet with day 7, our red is going to start here at pin 1. And we followed the wiring diagram straight across on the part we put, the female end that we put on the Xbox. So I, in theory, should just be able to plug in this guy right here. Whoa, dropped it. Like that. Have my pin 1 to that pin 1. Hey, what do you know? I was just guessing when I made pin 1 red. And that should be equivalent wiring inside the connector we put in the Xbox, and it should just work. Now I can push these wires, kind of hold the connector and push the wires, and it causes the little pieces in here to slide up. You can see that those ones are slid up, and then this one on the this one right here isn't really, so it's not really making contact. And that is actually enough that the end doesn't fall off, so it's making a connection. We can verify that We can verify my assumption there using multimeter. So let's see, the black was the one that doesn't look like it's making a connection there. I'm just gonna go cheap about this. I just want to verify that it is making a connection. And look, see, it's not a very good one. We don't even really need to go into that part because that's not how I'm ultimately going to leave it. I did consider trying to wedge this in there and maybe glue it, and it just it seems like that would be a cheaper way of doing it than the hack job I did on my first attempt at this. So what I'm going to do now is instead I'm going to take these little pins. We got to remember our color combination here, so red, white, green, black. We're going to take them out, and we can do that by just prying up a little bit of plastic right here. If you had a flathead screwdriver, it would probably work a lot better than using a Phillips. But anyway, that little bit of plastic is just a pressure lock. All it does is there's a little bit of the metal in there that's shall we say pried up, and so when you clip it in, the plastic sinks down below the metal, and so when you go to pull it back out, the metal hits the plastic. If you pry the plastic up, the whole thing slides out. So I promised myself I would bring the rest of the screwdriver set in because I've got it sitting. Oh, there we go. That went pretty well. So pry that up. That guy just slides right out. Like I said, red, white, green, black. We'll try and remember that. Okay. I wonder if I can use my let's use the heavy-duty holding compound. And then I dropped it on the floor. So what I'm going to do is get a little piece of tape, go right off the end here so that it doesn't get in my way. And reposition you. Whoop. Now, if I don't pull on it too badly, I should be able to do well. And there, now I'm pushing it down. Already this idea seems like a failure. The tape, that is. I'm pretty sure. Come on, white wire. Of course. Left hand, you're not cooperating. Alright, so grab wire before you lift plastic tab. You don't have your right hand available to help you because it's holding up the plastic tab. There we go. Alright, 2 down, green wire. And if you grab more than one wire, well, you're only holding up one plastic tab, so tape didn't work that long, did it? You're only holding up one plastic tab. So if you're pulling on more than one wire, you won't budge because one wire will stick. And I really don't want to pull the wires out of these connectors. And when I say these connectors, I mean these little metal connectors, because they will fit directly on, I'm pretty sure, the pins of our male connector, wherever it went. Right there. Alright, that's that one out. So, flip that guy around. Easiest to, if I'm going to do this with 2 of them, is it easier to put these, I guess, same difference. Whether I do the top row first or do the bottom row first, doesn't matter because I'll just flip it over for doing the other side. I just remember to do the colors in the same order. So I should be able to get away with, we'll do a fit test here. But yeah, that pushes on there pretty snug. Yeah, highly technical test there. That's the type of thing NASA uses to stress test their equipment. So I think that's going to work. I've got the soldering iron heated up. I'm going to put those on, which gets us to these little guys that I picked up from my local Ace Hardware, which is heat shrink tubing. And I got the really small ones here, so I'm just going to cut little sections to go over this, to go over those guys. And then the bigger ones here, I'll just cut a larger one that I can push. Actually, I think the larger ones, because I'll have these spread out, the larger one might be more trouble for me. It will shrink down, but it will want to stay wide at one end, and then it'll probably pull on the pins. So I think I'm just going to skip the larger one, especially that will create a lot of bulk having the larger one around 4 smaller ones. So I'm just going to go with the smaller ones. And ultimately, I hope that this connection will not be getting lots of stress put on it. I never did really explain why I wanted to make a removable connector for this anyway. And that's just in case I ever want to take it apart. I don't want, well, anytime you solder something without a connector, it's stuck. So if you need to ever remove that part, then you're kind of SOL. You either have to desolder it and redo it, or you can start by putting a connector in from the get-go, and then you don't have to deal with that hassle. Okay. Now, in measuring out the heat shrink tubing here, I want to make it long enough to cover the metal. Put it over here. But I also don't want to make it too long because I need to push it up the wire here so that it'll be away from the soldering iron while I'm heating, and then after I've soldered I can push it back down and then apply heat to the heat shrink tubing to shrink it. I'm going to go, honestly, just a hair longer than where the metal is, because I do want to cover that, and I should be able to just cut 4 of these the same length. That is a theoretical there. It's all depending on how accurate I can be with these scissors. Which is now beginning to seem to be problematic. Come on. And I'm trying to remember, because I got a pack of 3 pairs of scissors for $1 from Dollar General the other day, and for $1 they work as better than you could expect. But these actually seem to be a higher quality pair of scissors. So I'm sure those are all now exactly the same size. Glad that didn't fall on my foot. Okay. So let's slide this over our connector there, and hopefully, yeah, that's right in there. As you can see, the metal just barely sticks out the end there. Can you make out a little bit of red? Though it's hard for me to tell. The monitor I have that's displaying the live view of the cameras is not, it doesn't have a good backlight. It's a little worn out because it's an older monitor. If you've watched any of the previous days I've discussed, it's a Dell that I replaced the caps on, and that part of its problem is that the backlight's a little worn out. One of the older CFL cold fluorescent tube backlit monitors, so you know, a thicker monitor versus the new LED backlit ones. Okay, and just so I don't have to rely on my memory, red, white, green, black. So let's do them. I was thinking I'd just push them all on there, but I'm going to do them one at a time. So let's get our, there's a little triangle. This is our red wire. Whoop. Doesn't help if you keep flipping the connector, which is why I was using Scotch tape to tape it down. Put that on there. Whoop. Push that guy there. Hit the camera. That was all very planned. Trust me. So now we've got the soldering iron and some solder. The trick to this part is you don't want to do it too long because the pen will heat up and it will melt through the casing there, and then your pins will get misaligned. And it's not super difficult to do this in a good time frame, but if you just sit there with your soldering iron just hovering on the pin, you're definitely going to melt it. So you just want to be mindful of what's going on in that respect. And it could probably take a little bit of melting without really ruining your tolerances. But when it really starts to slide and misalign, and the pin itself is just pressure fit into that plastic, so if it melts too much, you're going to lose. The pin will literally fall out of the thing. Now, I wasn't planning on having that on the macro camera. That just was a bit of luck. I still have not purchased a replacement tip for this soldering iron, which I really should have done. See, you can see I melted the plastic a little bit there. Not the goal. I'm going to angle that so I have a little better angle on my side. And maybe if I cleaned this tip, that would help. One of the mistakes I've made in the past as far as cleaning a soldering iron, it was really more of an abuse on my part because I scraped the soldering iron tip clean. Well, when you do that, you ruin its ability to carry solder, which I've later found out. So, because the solder will want to stick to the iron tip, you know, when you dab a little bit on. Granted, that's not how you want to perform your soldering. You want to heat the item up and bring the solder to it, and then the solder will flow. It helps to have a little bit of solder stuck to the tip of your iron because that helps the new solder kind of melt. It helps the heat transfer. I am having a hard time. Oh, there we go. I found the spot and then knocked that glob off, which was still a little bit warm. Okay. USB cable, you get out of the way. And by that I mean USB cable to the camera. Put you here. And nope, not in the right spot. There we go. Give it a go, because I think we got the melty part of the iron. And I'm going to see if I can be quiet for a second here while I concentrate on what I'm doing. Which neither of those two things appears to be working. Let me Alright, that was an attempt to clean the iron off a little bit and see if I can get a little better results here. Okay, so that's my good spot on the iron. Where the heck is it? Thought it was holding that in front of the... Oh, there it is. See that little glob right there? That's the one good spot on the iron. So we'll slide that in here on the bottom. That's heating up right now. And there we go. We're running the solder in. Now that's a good joint. But if you look at my heat shrink, it shrank. So that's, like I said, that was my worry about having it too long. I might be able to get that to wiggle, but I think the odds are pretty slim. So in this scenario, and because the heat shrink's already on there, I can either desolder it and try a new piece of heat shrink. Oh, and my wire, if you look, a little crooked coming off the edge there, but if you look at the pins, if I put them in the camera, they're still aligned the same. So that means I didn't melt the plastic and misalign my pins, which is a good thing. I am bummed about that heat shrink. But pardon me for just a second. Sorry, I had that sitting back behind me. Let's use this X-Acto blade. So if this happens, I'm just going to try and cut the shrunk portion off. See if I can do that without cutting through my wire. That would be huge. Come on. If I just put it on the table, there we go. You can draw through it there. And this is not a good table, so I'm not worried about gouging it up and that sort of thing. I was going to throw this table away at one point, and then I said, no, you know what, it'll be a great hobby table. The point of that story being, if you're going to do this and you're on a good table, put something down that you can cut through, or not cut through, as it were, so that you don't ruin your table. Alright, I got a gap cut in there. And so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to try and cut a slit along the section that has shrunk already. And once I've got that, I can peel it away and finish cutting it off. And then the portion that isn't heat shrunk down will be able to slide up over. Now in theory I could also heat this heat shrink up and get it to get a little malleable, you know, it'd become a little more spongy, and I could hopefully snake it down there, but I don't expect I would have good results with that. Okay, cheapo knockoff, yeah, poster knife, you know. I think I said X-Acto, but X-Acto is a name brand and ideally a little better quality. So there we go. I got that split open there and pulled off. I just need to cut the last little bit of that off without cutting through my other wires. There we go. And now it should just slide up and over. And I cut that one long because if you look, you can see it still covers the whole wire. That's awesome. I wonder if it's a mistake to even heat shrink that at this point. because is it just going to get in the way while I'm, oh, look at that. The pin did come out. That means I got too much heat on it, or I just pulled on it too much. If it pushes back in snugly, that just means I was pulling on it too much. Oh yeah, that's very snug already. Darn. No, it wasn't very snug. So I did get that melted a little, which is not what I wanted. Well, it didn't melt so much that it misaligned, which means I think the pin will stay properly aligned if I can get this wire secured. Now that I can achieve through our good old friend the glue gun. So when I hook the rest of these wires up, I can then glue gun that and it will stay. I could also super glue from the back side, which would be a cleaner solution. So I'm going to go grab the super glue. Okay, I got my super glue, and it would probably be a lot easier for me to work if I got this keyboard and mouse out of my way. Wasn't thinking about that earlier. So got the super glue, and there's our pin, somewhat exposed. And I'm just going to put a little dab right near the end where the connector kind of stops. So I've got that pulled out just a little bit there, if you can see that. Put a dab of super glue there and then push it in. And there we go. And now I'm going to hold it for a little while. I don't remember how long this takes to set. I think it helps if you blow on it. Does it even say? Oh, well, it says to flush your eyes with water for 15 minutes if you get this in your eyes. I will try not to get the super glue in my eyes. Alright, that already feels like it's holding. And our pin alignment looks good still. That's this pin up here. So let's move on to the next pins and get this going. Red, white, green, black. So white is our next one. And I was thinking about this heat shrink issue, and I was thinking maybe if I tape them back, they won't slide down and shrink up on me while I'm trying to solder the pins on. So, of course, that keyboard I was complaining about being in the way just a minute ago, I set down on top of the tape. Put you guys all right here. And I could see this tape getting in the way when I'm trying to position the wires, so I might, oh, well, let's see. Align the wires the way you want them. So white, green, black. Wrap the tape. And now that I think about this, putting all the pins on might be a smarter way to go. And just getting them all on there together. And then I can just, no, I won't be able to get the soldering iron in there. Scrap that idea. I call for a take back because I need to be able to bring the soldering iron in under it, and if I've got all the pins there to be kind of in the way, whereas like this I can bring the soldering iron in under from the side like that. So there's our little magic spot where the solder sticks. Let's see if we can do this a little quicker this time, hopefully not free up our pin like we did on the last one. Alright, that looked like it went really well, and just a little bit of shrinking on the heat shrink. It was just a little bit, but I'll probably have to cut the end of the heat shrink open a little bit. I don't think I'll have to cut it off the way I did the other. That just goes to show my tape plan didn't work because all the heat shrink moved up together. Maybe if it were more accurately executed, i.e. if I'd taped the shrink wrap to the insulation or this section of shrink wrap, then it would have probably held it all back where I wanted it to be. Come on, there we go. Got the piece of tape out. Okay. Yeah, I can work with that. Ooh, I don't know that that one shrunk so much that it will be a problem. I think I can work that down. Oh. We'll get to that when the time comes. Now it's time for the green wire. Let's double check this. Pins still look good and aligned. So I'm not melting the connector anymore or too badly. I think it helps that I've found this spot on the iron where the solder sticks well. And I definitely have to do something about that heat shrink. Oh, or for how heavy you are, you certainly slide off of things easily. Now we'll get a little bit extra solder going there. Put that on the wires. That will pull it down because it was leaning. Well, I can't illustrate this. It was leaning up. I'll get it in like that. Instead, I'll have it sit flat, and then the heat shrink will not slide forward onto the area I'm trying to solder. All right. And this is why these videos that I always think will be so quick and easy end up being an hour long when I think they should only be 15 minutes or so. Oh, I wish I had that on camera because the solder flowed really well and the heat shrink stayed out of the way. Let me set that down and let's go for our last one here, which is the black. It's amazing how those all appear crooked. You know, if you look at it here, they all look like they're coming off at an angle there, which they very well might be. But they're on, and I bet they're making connectivity. And we will verify that with our multimeter. And we will finish out today, hopefully, with a successful... Oh, look at that, I have two things to solder. That's what I get for not paying attention. With a successful test of the USB connector, or with a USB flash, or yeah, one of my USB flash drives hooked to the Xbox and talking to it. So we put that in there, bring this guy up, and yeah, that flowed right into that joint. That is how soldering is supposed to look. That is so much better than the stuff I did the other day. Alright. Give it a chance to cool down. Yeah, a little bit of shrinking on that one. Can we push these all up? And then what am I going to use for a heat source to shrink this heat shrink tubing? I, in the past, have used lighters. Something always seemed wrong about that to me. It seemed like you were burning and thus ruining your heat shrink tubing. But it did shrink up, which is what you want. This white one, which is the one the end shrunk on, is giving me trouble. But oddly enough, it feels more like the problem is my inability to grip it and not that it's shrunk. No, it's shrunk enough. So I'm just going to take the knife here and I'm just going to slide it under, and I'm just going to make a little slit in the end. Wow. Like that. And now we should be able to, yeah, that made the difference. Can I get it? And of course it's the one that also doesn't want to make it all the way down. If we pull the rest back, maybe we can do these one at a time. I've got the red one pushed down there already. Come on, white one. You are still being particular. Do I need to cut that little bit off? Yeah. Or I need, now split that just a little bit more, and let's see if we can wiggle you down. You are being very particular. And now that I got these soldered, I can actually straighten them out a little bit. It'd be a good thing to check, because that also will let me know if I melted the plastic and then got the pins misaligned. But it looks like the only one I'm going to have that problem with was the red one. There we go. Yeah, my earlier decision to not use a piece to come down, if you look at how thick all that is, and my attempts to cut these the same size, fairly inaccurate. So, I've got those all pushed down here. I just need some heat, and I believe just bringing the soldering iron in close enough to it should do what I want. I'm almost touching that, and it doesn't seem to be. There, I'm just lightly brushing it with the soldering iron. I'm actually doing it quite quickly too. I've got them pushed down there as far as I can. I might have to go back at this with the lighter or something. Go on, heat up, shrink. This stuff actually shrinks quite considerably. Yeah. It looked like it slid back a little bit, which it might have. I don't have a whole lot of control over keeping it in place. And earlier when I discussed that I have abused and do abuse my soldering iron, this is the type of thing that constitutes abuse of your soldering iron and will ruin the tip, because now you're getting it coated in melted plastic. But those all seem to be shrunk up, and that's what we wanted, and they all feel secure. I am just going to do the one cable for tonight. Yeah, we'll do the other cable. Oh, look at that. Still slides. They didn't show that very well, did it? Those ones slide back, so they can use some more heating. Or I could just cheat and super glue them. Let's just go with more heating. We'll just run that right along there. And I did work one place where we had a heat gun, and I was able to use that with some heat shrink once, and that was amazing. So I highly recommend, if you're going to do a lot of stuff with heat shrink, get a heat gun. It's, at the end of the day, so worth it in terms of how nice it makes everything work and fit. And now I'm just reminded that being low budget like myself, I do have access to a heat gun. It's called a hair dryer. It's one of those things you don't use when you have short hair, I guess. Don't really think about it. Okay, that's done. Let's do a little continuity check, and then we will assuming we pass our continuity check, we'll plug it into the Xbox, turn it on, and see if we can get the connector, or see if we can get a positive signal from our USB. Given this cable, I'm not sure I'm going to be able to fit this on the little camera here, so I'll just do my best on the overhead camera. So let's see, this is the furthest wire that way, but not knowing which side's the, well, that should be the black, I would assume, which would be this one. Oh, yeah, that wire will hold itself. So black is going to be that one right there. Okay, so there's black. That one should be green. That one should be white. That should be red. So no crosses. Let's go over to the next one. That holds that probe quite well. So you heard me talk all about doing the black. This was the black right here. This one would be the yellow. Well, too high. This one would be the yellow, which we're not using. This one's the black, so green. Yep, cool. Oh, look at that. Bridge. There's, oh, you know what? Not a bridge. Crooked probe. And that's what happens when you're not holding the probe directly. These probe wires have twisted themselves, so you move one, the other one moves. Alright, now that I've freed up the probe wires, put black in here. We're going on what should be the green contact. I don't think I can hold that left-handed and hold this. Well, okay. So that was our black, or yellow, black. That one's the green. Alright, we're getting continuity. White, red, nothing. Okay, moving over to our white. So, red. Oh, okay, good. I was crooked again. Red, white, yeah, green, black, and if I got a continuity on the yellow, something's very wrong. Okay, and this is the red. So, red, white, green, black. Alright, that looks good. Let's get our Xbox up here and test these guys out. Okay, so we got our Xbox plugged in. Here's our little connector from yesterday. Here's our cable with our new connector. And let's plug this guy in right here. I have the Xbox plugged in, so I'm being very careful about where I'm putting my hands right now. Or at least I think I'm being careful. That might be a misconception on my part. Turn this guy on, and I am fully expecting this to work. I was skeptical last time, and that definitely proved to be the case. Alright, go to memory, and if you plug it in correctly, if it's plugged in, let's see what happens. Oh, did I just talk up a big game and then have failure? Total failure. No flashing light like last time either. Oh, what's going on? And hard drive, you're really making me nervous. Is it just because you were so crooked? Oh, look at that. I got the colors wrong. This one's red, white, green, black. This one is red, green, white, black. So I need to switch these two. Awesome. Let's turn this guy off, unplug it, and let's switch them. See, you get cocky about this sort of thing, and then you go make a stupid mistake, and now we got to see if we can fix it. So to fix that, we just cut off our heat shrink tubing. I'll have to get more of that cut to put back on. And you cut it off just by slicing down it, and then it should just peel away. And I have to do that for the white and the green. Woohoo! It does not help to slip with your very sharp knife, because there's always the possibility you can cut through your wire. Less than desirable would be that outcome. And okay, looks like I got all of that. That is very disappointing that I went and got those backwards. Oh, little camera. I can bring you back. But yeah, as you can see from here, I did red, white, green, black, which is exactly how I counted them off, which is how they are on this cable. But inside the Xbox, I put the wires in red, green, white, black. And I thought, so that must have been a mistake I made on day 7, because I specifically set out to align those wires to be the same as these ones. So now that I've cut my groove in here, and I would say it would be easier to fix the connector at that end, except with that all clamped down like that, I don't know. I honestly think it would be more difficult to fix the connector at that end. So, got this cut, just pushing it apart here. Go on. Okay. This will be an interesting trick, considering those two are right in the middle. If I'm lucky, I can put the soldering iron maybe on both of them and pull them free. It's probably not too likely. So let's have to do it one at a time. So let's get a good grip on one, and then we'll get in there and heat this guy up. I had unplugged the soldering iron because I thought I was done with it for the evening, so it appears that it's going to need a little time to heat up here. And if you look at the white wire, you can see right down there at the end, I kind of melted or messed up the insulation, which is why you put heat shrink, so that you have some insulation at the end of the day. Alright. And the worst thing that could happen right now is pulling a pin out of that connector. That being said, or would it be? These are just pressure fit. Did I mess up by taking off the insulation? I'm going to try and give them a little push. Let's see. I don't want to push too hard and break something. But if, oh, look at that. Oh, man. Okay. Much easier solution. Push the pins out, swap the two wires. Heck, doing it this way, I didn't even have to pull the cut the insulation, the heat shrink off like I did. And heck, on that note, I might even be able to put the pins on the bottom just by pulling the pins, soldering them in the connectors, and then pushing them back in. Just for the heck of it, we're going to try with the yellow pin on the bottom row. So that'll be this pin right here. I'm just going to see if I can give it a little push right out of the plastic. And get the screwdriver end on there and give it a little... Oh, that seems pretty secure. So there was obviously a little bit of melting from the other pins, because this one does not want to move, and it is... Nope, there it goes. Oh, nope, didn't push, just bent a little. So looks like I'll put some new heat shrink onto these guys. Just cut that in half. And this could be a side effect of me heating it with the soldering iron to do the heat shrink. But that being said, I'm going to unplug the soldering iron again. Find the scissors that I tried to drop on my foot earlier. Oh, darn it. I'm getting ahead of myself again. I need the soldering iron to shrink my heat shrink. So, oh, off the back of the table. Alright, there's that guy. The one that went off the back. Oh, I can get it pretty easily. Hang on just a sec. That was a lot easier than expected. Okay, put that one on here. Okay, this time we're going to do it in red, green, white, black. And I think I'm gonna... Well, once I get these pushed in, I might pull them back just a little bit and do that dab of super glue thing that I did with the red pin. Because the last thing you want to have happen is you don't want these pins to slide in and out so easily that you end up, you go to put the thing together, and instead of pushing together, the pins slide out. That's, once again, less than optimal. Alright, so I've got those there. See if I've got them pushed back just a hair. I'm just going to put a dab of super glue in and around both of those. Give them a push forward. There we go. Got them pretty well forward there. How's our pins look? They look pretty good from that side. I don't see any variance between top and bottom. That's drying. Alright, go super glue. Red, green, white, black. Push the heat shrink down on both of these. And for now, I'm going to leave those, change my mind on the soldering iron again. I am going to leave those just like that, and I am going to use a hairdryer. Maybe I'll show a little bit of that on day 9. I'll bring the hairdryer, I'll do that, finish the other side. Try and make that a quick feature. Okay. So I was going to say 3rd time's the charm. I can't verify. Before I plug it in, I'm going to do this part just so that my hands aren't in there with the high voltage, which I was complaining about just a minute ago. There we go. That pushed together quite well. All right. And I don't know if I finished my previous thought, which was, I was going to say third time's the charm, but I think I might be a little beyond my third attempt at this. Okay, here we go. That guy's there. Turn you on. Controller. And in all honesty, I don't mind that it didn't work. I mean, yes, it's upsetting that I had to fix it and that it didn't work right off, but that's all part of the experience. You know, that's, things happen, you got to figure out why. So, controller's plugged in and working. Let's, come on, memory. Still no light. Are you kidding me? I definitely have them correct this time. I am not getting a thing off of that, though. And I don't want to muck around with it with my hand in there. Red, green, white, black. Red, green, white, black. Okay, try the other one. No lights, nothing. It's oh, and there it goes. Okay, I think I have my answer. I have a loose connection on one of these. Okay, so before I continue debugging this, we're going to turn this off and let's take the connector out of the Xbox. Bring it up here. Alright, let's try it from here. And that's working. So, my problem, you know, can you see the blinking light? Oh, no, went away. Although it may not be accessing it at the moment. Memory. Still nothing. We got this guy. Pushing all the pins there. But what I suspect, I thought it was something in the female end, may not be tight enough. Now I'm not so sure. Don't fall in there. I'm not getting anything consistent here. Okay. Pull you out. Don't fall in there. You have a problem listening to simple instructions. Alright, I don't get what's going on. Does not seem to be a loose connector. Alright, well, for the most part, we appear to have our problem located. I twist this and put some extra stress on the wire. And I don't know why. This is being very particular. This one is not coming up. Wonder why you're so much... This USB unit, you can see the light flashing on it, so it's getting a signal. But it's not showing up on the Xbox. But this one comes right up. Difference being, this one's a 4 gig, so it's the larger of the two. The other one I think is 2 gig. I might have to do a reformat on this one. I think it would still recognize. There we go. Okay, so I just didn't have a good connection with it initially in terms of whatever's going on here. I've got the cable twisted, and it's putting stress or extra pressure on the female end of the connector, so that part's not good. I'm going to, I guess the day 9 will not be starting the soft mod. Day 9 will be finishing up the USB connector take 2 project. Okay, thank you, and have a good evening.